Welcome to our webinar series we call Integrator Insights. This series is designed to explore the experiences of integrators that are shaping the landscape of modern control technology. We have candid conversations to explore valuable insights, inspirations, and review real integration projects, and we try to have a little fun along the way. I'm your host, Patrick Laidlaw, Director of Business Development for Integration for the AiSPIRE and Modern Form Smart Fan Alliance. So Rachel will be joining us. She's, again, the marketing manager of the W Group, which includes AiSPIRE, Modern Forms Fans and Luminaires, and Schoenbeck Heirloom Crystal Luminaires. Also joining us, a very special guest, Tom Pieracki from Simply Automated. Tom founded Simply Automated in 2012 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Simply Automated is a full-service integration, a firm committed to delivering exceptional service, sales, and deployment of lifestyle-inspired home automation systems. The company emphasizes emphasizes innovative lighting solutions and wellness features to enhance everyday living. Tom is the owner of Simply Automated, has over 28 years of experience in operation, design, sales, and installation within the systems integration industry. Tom, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Rachel, thank you for joining us too. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me too.
Yeah, bring a little color to our webinar here. Appreciate you. So Tom, why don't we kick this off for all of our listeners and attendees? Why don't we kick this off with a tour of your space? And that way everybody has a frame of reference for what we're going to talk about. Is that okay with you?
Sure thing.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen here, Tom. And tell me when you're good. You see that okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so Tom, you tell me when to change the slides. I'm going to let you walk through this. This is obviously the outside of your building in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or actually, what town is it actually in?
Oh, we're actually in Leedsdale, so right outside of Pittsburgh, about 15 minutes.
Okay, take it away, Tom. Tell us about your facility here. We're going to be talking a lot about it today.
First of all, great outside pick. It's stretched. We look a lot bigger than we actually are on the exterior, so that's awesome. But yeah, so I purchased this building about 2.5 years ago. We went through a massive renovation. It's a 3-story building. It's actually a lot bigger than what it looks like from the front. So we have 2 floors of showroom and office, and then our ground floor. We have about 3,500 square feet of warehouse and garage space. So what we're looking at here is the exterior shot from the front of the building on our main street.
So this is where people will pull up, whether they be tradespeople or your clients, they pull up to this door and this is where they walk in, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we have parking basically where the picture was taken right across the street. We have parking there for clients and people visiting us.
Okay, excellent. Can we go in the front door?
Absolutely.
Well, I think we can anyways. There we go.
All right. Yeah, so as you enter through the front door, we took a slightly different approach with this build out. We wanted to go super heavy with lighting, right? So this is the front space where we greet clients. The first thing they see is lighting. We built these clouds that you see hanging from the ceiling because we have 14-foot ceilings there. We wanted to bring it down, but also have the option to be able to swap out lighting as models change and so on. So we built these clouds that are about 10 feet by 2 feet, wrapped them in drywall and loaded them up with lighting. You'll notice the middle cloud, and we have a whole nother section on the other side. The middle cloud has what we call not so great lighting. So we ran out to Lowe's and picked up your typical 6-inch halos and what we all as integrators see a lot of in luxury homes these days. And then the outer clouds have nicer quality lighting, some different technology in them, such as dim and warm. We have dim and warm lights in there that we can show clients. The other thing you're seeing right away is, lighted mirrors. We do a lot of lighted mirror business, as well as shades. So we're a Hunter Douglas dealer, and we support a couple other lines. So the front end of the showroom, really focuses on lighting, more so than anything else. And we also have some invisible speakers in there from Sonance that people get a kick out of. So yeah, that's one side of the showroom. I don't know if you have the other side or not, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, obviously you hit on a really important point when you talk about shading and your lighting right here. You know, the future really is headed towards the balance of artificial and natural light together. And you've really emphasized that here in your showroom. So this would be coming in the door. That was looking left. This would be looking right, correct?
Correct. So, same focus on the right with the clouds. And again, we wanted to keep everything out of the ceiling because, it's incredibly, challenging to fix drywall. You'll notice it's hard to really tell, but on the right, we had a custom case built and it's loaded up, I think, with 16 lighting keypads, so we could start the lighting control conversation as well. Some of them are functional, some just have power, so we could show engravings and how they're backlit. But just really kind of a welcoming, entrance into the showroom. The main focus overall in the showroom as we go through it is definitely lifestyle, a lot of lighting. We want, we always talk about enhancing people's design in their homes when we meet with them. What we didn't do is load the showroom up with a bunch of equipment everywhere. And we'll kind of see that as we go through it. So there's literally, for those of you watching in the other room, you can see a stack there. We have a small 2-channel area. That's the only equipment you see throughout the whole showroom until you see our racks downstairs. And then obviously we have a decorative piece in the middle, which we're starting to get a lot more decorative lighting, selling decorative lighting on projects right now. So
I think it's interesting. It's kind of cool that instead of it being a sales office, you're really kind of putting people in the space of how they feel in their home, maybe in their own living room or own great room. And then also I love the concept of showing what not to do with lighting, so people have that frame of reference of what better lighting is. Instead of trying to tell them about less glare, you show them what maybe the electrician or builder might furnish and what their options are.
Right. I mean, we're a C4 house, right? So that's our automation platform, and all the lighting in the clouds is tied in. So we have a keypad on a wall where we can toggle back and forth between, good lighting and what your typical contractor grade is. And honestly, the minute we turn on the middle clouds, the lighting is so harsh to the eye that, the potential client just immediately gets it. It's a no-brainer. And then we talk, obviously different aperture sizes and that sort of thing, technology, as we kind of go through it. But truthfully, I would say that majority of our clients that are coming in that have new construction building custom homes, they're not meeting with us to talk about lighting. In fact, most of them have no idea that we're even in that space. They're coming for all the typical stuff, automation and theaters and audio distribution and that sort of thing. So being able to touch on that immediately really kind of derails the other conversation sometimes, which can be a good and a bad thing, because a lot of times we get so stuck on lighting in that initial meeting that we have to, schedule a second meeting to actually get into the AV and the integration side of the business.
Sure. Yeah, well, you're the AV guy until they get in the door. That's great. This is a subtle way to introduce it.
Yep. So this is walking in, a little further into the showroom. 2-channel area. We had a nice custom, wooden piece built there and integrated some tape lighting into it. Recessed it in a channel. It's all DMX driven, color changing, and it's a statement piece. People get they get a kick out of it when they see it. It's a really nice custom piece that we have built. You also notice that there's some channel in the bulkhead that actually, so we have a bulkhead that runs through this whole top floor that's kind of like a cross, almost as a cross section. So we have channel running all through the showroom on both sides with color changing tape continuously. And that obviously is all, color changing and integrated, and, we have that tied in the system as well. And then we had a custom built-in built by my cabinet guy. And really the built-in was designed around a future automation lift system. So we could completely hide the TV. Obviously you can't show that in a picture, but it's really cool. And then we have lighting throughout the entire piece of casework there. I mean, lighting up all the shelves, there's toe kick lighting. And that room also features a combination of dim to warm as well as tunable lighting. We partnered with a local artist here next town over, and he loaded us up with some of his artwork that you can see there. And it really allows us to, kind of showcase tunable lighting and give people an idea of what it is. Because what we found, and I'm sure a lot of guys in the industry know, nobody really gets it. People really don't understand what tunable lighting is. They don't really understand the technology that's available behind lighting now. Even something as simple as, dim to warm product, being able to show something like that. Anyone over the age of 35 understands what an incandescent light bulb was and how it used to dim, and we're kind of missing that now, right? With all these harsh lights that everyone's installing in their homes. So really allows us to showcase that. And then, we have a number of recessed lights throughout the showroom. And it's kind of hard to see, but you'll notice, there's, speaker grills in the ceiling also. And, we ended up going with small aperture speakers to match up with the lights. And it's actually really helped us with our speaker sales, being able to go to a smaller aperture speaker, because people don't want a 6.5 or 8-inch speaker when they have a 2 or 3 inch light. So the whole top floor of the showroom has smaller aperture speakers. From actually in this showroom, it's all James loudspeaker product. But yeah,
nice. And what you can't see. Oh, go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask a bigger question. This is such a beautiful space, Tom. How did you get here? How did you get to this showroom and build this place? Like, what's your background? What kind of drove you to build this place?
Well, so look, this is my third showroom in the last 12 years. I hate saying that, but it's true. We leased our first 2 spaces, and I was finally in a position, ironically during COVID, to where I could buy a building, and it just all kind of worked out. So we went really hard on this place, spent a ton of money because I own it. Unlike the previous shops, I mean, they were really nice. We always, put out a really nice showroom, but we went pretty hard. I hired a designer, which I've never done in the past. Totally worth it. So I had a fantastic designer that's also a partner of us. We do a lot of business together and back and forth, share a lot of clients. And she helped me tremendously, with a lot of aspects of the showroom and finishes.
Yeah, it looked tremendous, Tom. We'll finish doing the walkthrough here, but what people can't see in the photograph, like especially that living room ceiling, that living room scene, like you said, that TV tucks back behind and the wood comes down. It looks like a beautiful wood, just a wood built in, and then you have all the scenes already programmed, so it gets real warm, and the fireplace down below is going, and it's just a really cool setting. And then the scenes change throughout. The TV pops out depending what you're going to do. So it's really impressive when you see this in person and see how it would. I would imagine the clients go, "Wow, this is exactly what I want." I would think so.
Yeah, people get a kick out of it, and honestly, the pictures really don't do it justice because the photographer needed the lights on all the way, as bright as possible to take the pictures, right? So everything's on at 100% in these photos, right? It looks a lot better when we activate certain scenes.
For sure.
And then we have this. So we put a bar in. We always put a bar in. So it's a good thing to have in your showroom, especially for late night meetings with clients. And what we ended up doing, we partnered with a local stone supplier, and we ended up using some quartzite in here, as well as sheets of LEDs. These are actually pixels from WAC, and we have that all tied in. It's super cool. It's not for everybody, I've identified that, but it is for some people. I have a client right now that wants to do his whole shower like this. So, there's definitely, it's much like that lift. It's not something that we're going to sell every single day, but, I'm a firm believer if you show it, eventually you'll sell it, right? So.
Yeah, and that's all color changing too, Tom, right? So that you can do red, blue, whatever. So
yeah, and on that lighting keypad to the left on the wall there, we have multiple scenes where we do color changing there already pre-programmed.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool vibe. heading
So
downstairs here.
yeah, this is a shot of the stairs actually heading downstairs. What we did here is we used a different type of channel that would allow us to light the stairs rather than going with traditional step lights. Again, some of this is more of a modern look. Not everyone is into it, but it definitely gets conversation going as to why you should have step lights in the house, right? So this is color changing as well. We never change the colors on this though, but it's capable.
Nice.
Excuse me. So this is downstairs on the middle floor. So we kind of created a rack room. It's almost kind of a statement piece. Color changing lights in there. We did a metallic epoxy floor in that area. Can't really see them, but there's cable ladders that run through that really allows us to show off wire management. And this is where we have the conversation of, hey, when we wire your house, we centrally wire. This is what you end up with. You end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 racks, whatever it takes, depending on the size of the project. And this is
we keep losing you. Maybe if you go off video, so we can hear you.
I'm sorry.
We keep losing you. Maybe if you turn off your video. I hate to not see you, but at least we want to hear what you're saying because it keeps blocking you off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear, Tom. I'm not sure if it's on your end, Rachel, or maybe Tom's end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, and actually, if I turn off my video, I'm gonna lose my audio as well. So
yeah, no, keep going for now, Tom. We'll see if it was Rachel, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody just piped in the loud and clear, so you're good.
Yeah, so this is the rack room. This is all the gear that runs the entire shop, the showroom, both nuts and bolts. So through the door there, we have another set of racks in there for some back end gear for testing. And then obviously we have a centralized lighting panel to the left. We like to show that off. We do a lot of centralized lighting on our projects. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool room.
Yeah, there's also a full kitchen downstairs, right? You got a complete kitchen there. Yeah, thank you. Yep. Full kitchen.
We use that kitchen during events, stage food, that sort of thing, and otherwise it's an employee kitchen.
Yeah, but it's got under cabinet lighting, tape lighting above, below the cabinets and stuff. You deck that out as well.
All that good stuff. I think we have a bunch of 2-inch recessed lights throughout that room. Came together really nice. Yeah, so this is our theater room. So we built out a dedicated room. From on the lighting side, all color changing recessed. We built columns, and obviously we have channel in there with color changing tape. But yeah, it's a JBL synthesis room, fiber optic ceiling. It's fully treated, wrapped. Sony projector, Stewart screen, Matt VR, K-scape, Fortress seating. It's a performance room. Sounds and looks awesome. And honestly, during our last event, which was mostly, I know we're going to get into that, but we had a lot of designers here, and I've never had more designers give me, positive feedback on a theater room in my life. They were absolutely blown away. So it's pretty cool. It's a great room.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. So everybody will have a kind of a point of reference of what we're going to be talking about today with Tom. Not only a little bit of his history and how he got in the business, but this showroom and how his clients, and that's developers, designers, the tradespeople, as well as clients, have responded to the showroom. So Tom, why don't you give everybody a quick background on how you started the integration industry? So everybody seems to have a story of how they landed in this field. A lot of MacGyvers. How did you get here?
Yeah, I'll try to make it as short as possible because it's pretty long. Honestly, I fell into the industry. It was not going to be my career path, but I had nothing else going on. And a buddy of mine talked me into getting into cable TV and doing cable TV installs back when everything was analog. This was late 90s, probably 97, 98. And me and a couple other guys ended up starting a company, contracting for the major cable companies in the Bay Area, California. And yeah, I did that for several years, and I ended up transitioning into security, intrusion, and surveillance. Did that, and then after that, I transitioned into working with a lot of production builders throughout the Bay Area and the Central Valley in California. Early days of structured wiring, audio distribution, selling, option-based, upgrades in the homes. And did that for several years. I ended up moving to Pittsburgh in 2005 or 6, towards the end of 2005, and wanted a break from working for myself. I went to work for the top integrator at the time in this market, and basically took on a sales role, and then that led into management there. And I was there for about 4.5, 5 years. Hit a wall, like a lot of people do. It was a financial wall, and I only had one choice, and that was to do it again. So I formed Simply Automated in 2012, and we've been running ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great story. I don't know if I've met anybody in the integration channel yet that said, well, I was in grade school playing football or soccer one day, and I decided, hey, I want to be an integrator. And a lot of different paths into this field is pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah, I wish it would happen that way. It would make the hiring process a lot easier for all of us in this industry.
Yeah, everybody's challenged with that right now.
Yeah, I think it happens by accident a lot.
Yeah, I think everybody's challenged with that right now, but it's really cool to see the industry as a whole and a lot of individuals reaching back out to some of the trade schools and some of the technical schools. And some of, actually, a lot of integrators are starting to guest speak at some of the local technical schools to say, hey, this is an opportunity for you to use what you learned, but in a fun, creative way, because as you know, again, I use the term MacGyver. You guys figure out a lot of stuff, you guys and gals, that I could only dream of wondering how to put together, so.
Very true.
That's awesome. So we're talking about lighting today, and your showroom obviously has got a lot of lighting in it. At what point did you decide to get into lighting? I mean, were you just sitting around one day and you flipped the switch on and said, hey, I think I'm going to sell lighting? And what landed you here? What was your aha?
Kind of. Things just tend to happen. I don't know how to explain it, right? I never really thought about lighting outside of lighting control. So back in 2017, I just signed a lease on our previous space, and at the same time, I had a new hire that was joining us in a sales and design capacity, who had a lot of experience in AV, but he was coming to us from a role as a manufacturer's rep in the lighting industry, right? So we just got to talking one day, and I was literally ripping the ceiling out of this place that I just leased, and I said, we should think about getting into lighting, And at that time, I mean, there have been guys that in the industry that have been doing lighting for years, right? I mean, there's a lot of Lutron guys out there that have been selling fixtures for a really long time, but as a whole in the industry, I don't really think there was much of a conversation back then. So we decided to basically load the showroom up with lighting. It was a much smaller space than this one, but we put some cool stuff in there and just kind of ran with it. And at the same time, I just closed 2 large-scale projects, custom home projects. And I literally called the clients up and I said, hey, what are you doing for lighting, right? What's your lighting package look like? And we got to talking and sat down with them. We didn't even have a showroom built out at that point yet. We had a couple, cases of lighting, your typical, manufacturer's sales rep cases. Went to their house and started talking small aperture lights and different form factors and how we could integrate it. And next thing you know, we had 2 massive lighting jobs. And the individual that worked for me did have, he did have lighting design chops, right? Which is something that I did not have at that time. So next thing you know, we're laying out prints. And at that time, I mean, we weren't using CAD. We weren't using anything. He had colored pencils, where he was, it's crazy. I mean, but it worked, and we sold 2 very large lighting jobs, which were basically our opening orders. and it kind of took off from there, and we've been doing it ever since with obviously, I saw the light, right? I mean, I don't want to sound goofy, but I mean, it's all the light. I mean, we were making money. I mean, I mean, we're all in the business to make money, number one, right? But we're also, we're always looking for that next thing that we can showcase and bring value, to our clients and their projects. And lighting just made sense. We're again doing a ton of lighting control, like a lot of guys in this industry do. So that's kind of how it happened.
Nice.
When you're working with a client, how and when does lighting enter the conversation?
Well, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I mean, it happens immediately. The first time we have them out to our showroom, we meet with every single client in our showroom, unless they're out of state. We do some out of state work from time to time, and then we're zooming or going out to meet them wherever they live. But the conversation starts in the showroom as we're giving them the walkthrough through the showroom, which can take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the pace we're going at. And that's really how it starts. We talk about, again, the different technologies, being able to show them how lighting control works with those technologies, such as tunable lighting and so on. And by the time we're done, it's either a hard yes or a hard no. It's rarely in between, right? And the only time it gets to an in-between point is when we're talking budget, and we have to pull back a little bit. But what we end up doing then is, rather than doing some of the nicer lighting throughout the entire space, we look at secondary areas and we go with more contractor grade, which there's a lot of manufacturers out there right now that are in our space that actually have a really nice contractor grade offering. So there might be a little bit of pullback just due to budget, but it's usually a go. We pretty much close almost every single lighting job in a new construction environment that we touch.
Gotcha. So Tom, what's your best, this is a two-part question. What's your best category of lighting? Because I know you've done landscape lighting, you've sold integrated ceiling fans, you've done indoor lighting, decorative lighting. Which categories have you had the most success with? And then maybe give us your elevator pitch, if you would, what you might say to a client.
So we sell a lot of architectural, right? I mean, just that the most of what we sell is architectural. And for several years, really up until I'd say the last year and a half, it was primarily either static or it was dim and warm product. We did a lot of that. Now we're starting, especially this year, we've done several projects with a lot of tunable lighting throughout the home. So number one, architectural. Number two is probably tape. We get in a lot of tape. That's more and more. It's a bit of I would say a push and pull with the cabinet guys, right? A lot of those guys want to do it, but a lot of times we end up winning the conversation because we're the ones integrating it. We do a lot of light and mirror business, and then I would say almost every single new construction custom home that we do, we end up landing the landscape lighting project as well. So and we get into some channel every once in a while. It just really depends on the style of the home. If it's more modern, then that typically works out. But as far as elevator pitch, there really isn't one. We're very, like a lot of guys in this industry, we preach lifestyle, we preach design. It just comes down to does it make sense? Having the showroom and being able to show it to people in real life and not just talk about it, and have them press buttons and see what it does, and see how lighting can change a room, how lighting can change artwork, how it can change furniture. It just, to a lot of people, we've noticed, over the last several years, it just makes sense, especially when they're building a new house. So.
Well, you mentioned budget earlier. Is there anything other than budget that people would not want to implement lighting?
Um, no, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, they either want to do it or they don't, right? But I think and this has happened on a handful of jobs. When there is the budget, then we come to them with a contractor grade, right? So, and not, this is not a plug, but, WAC has a great, contractor grade pop-in light, that's roughly around a $50 light, which is on par with, all the other, contractor grade Halo type product. And again, it usually makes sense to the client because we're integrating it.
Yeah, gotcha. A question came in, Tom, and you kind of answered this, and I don't want to speak for you, so I'm just going to read the question to you. But considering you fell into lighting, what style fixtures did you start selling at the beginning of your lighting adventure? Was it Alpine, Astro, Aurora, Atmosphere? So as you know, for listeners, Alpine is static white or constant white. Astro is dim to warm. Aurora is color changing, and Atmosphere is tunable white. And they're asking, from your experience, what would you recommend to an integrator breaking into lighting? Like, what would you recommend to a new guy? What's his differentiation point, and where should he or she start?
Well, when we jumped in, this was before AiSPIRE, right? So, we didn't really, we weren't focusing on that type of technology. So it was all architectural, a lot of dim to warm, a lot of static light. Now things are changing. As far as jumping into it, a lot of it really comes down to, at the end of the day, if you're going digital, you're programming in some sort of control system. I mean, 99.9% of the time, right? So, what's your experience level? On the programming side, do you have guys that work for you that have the chops that, can program that sort of thing? So I would say ease into it. What I don't recommend is doing what we did. I mean, we jumped in a whole house environment. I'm not saying don't do it, but just know what you're getting into, because there are several pitfalls, and we learned a lot of tough lessons along the way, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. But
yeah, we're going to ask you about a few of those, Tom. We're going to lift up the curtain, and we want to see what's behind.
Yeah, go as slow or as fast as you're comfortable doing. We're a rip the Band-Aid off type of a company, so we tend to, good or bad, it's bit me in the wrong way a number of times, but it tends to work out.
Yeah, and Tom, and also to the listener who asked this question, I would say for most integrators, especially starting out, dim to warm, what we call our Astro, but dim to warm from anyone out there, that's probably our number one experience, because it's still, phase dimming. You're not getting into digital programming. It's still phase dimming, but it gives the user a better experience than a constant white, where when you dim it down, it becomes less bright, but it's still white. You can't create mood and emotion with a constant white light, and you can do that with dim to warm. So it's great. I heard you say that a couple of times unprompted. That dim to warm has been a great selling experience for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've invested a lot of money. You've invested enough money in this building that you would make a lot of people's backsides really squidge together and maybe even pucker a little bit, Tom. You've dedicated a lot of money and really rolled the dice. How has the investment panned out so far? I mean, the open house I heard was spectacular. You may want to say what kind of reception you got at the open house, and then where has it gone from there?
Yeah. So yeah, it was a lot of money. I didn't realize how much money it was going to be, and then it was a lot more money than I thought it was going to be. Right? I mean,
always is.
Budget got blown out. Totally worth it. I mean, look, there, and we all know this, and there are integrators out there that do extremely well without a showroom, right? And they really don't do the whole showroom model thing. There are guys that have showrooms and they do really well. We're one of the guys that does really well having a showroom. It absolutely helps the sales process for us. As far as when we opened up, we obviously had to have some level of grand opening. Want to do something a little bit different. We didn't want to reach out to, the several hundred clients that we have, and bring in a bunch of the usual faces. We actually sent invites out to every single designer and architect in the greater Pittsburgh, Southwest PA area. Everyone we didn't have a relationship with. And, you know, we sent about 130, 150 invites out. We had 80 something people show. I mean, it was a fantastic showing. Honestly, I couldn't have done it without the support of obviously my staff, but manufacturer support. I mean, we had several manufacturers from the lighting world, speakers, you know, every single category. I mean, I probably had 10 or 12 manufacturers reps that drove out, flew out, and they staged up in different parts of the showroom and talked to everybody because, you know, obviously I can't, my sales staff, we can't, you know, be there to talk to everybody throughout the evening nonstop. So it was a fantastic event. We're big on events. We like doing events. We usually, you know, historically, we usually do at least one, if not two events a year. We try to hold different types of events. Lately, they have been geared more towards our partners in the business, you know, the designers and the architects and builders. But yeah, it's in my opinion, it's money well spent. The showroom was money well spent. I'm going to be recovering from that for probably several more years. But look, when you bring clients in and you're closing good to large size work consistently, and people are really digging it, I have people tell me I want exactly that. I want literally exactly this theater room. I want this type of lighting. I want a lift system. I want to be able to do this. I would have a much harder time. I think I'm pretty good at sales. I would have a much harder time selling our solutions without a showroom. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, got it. So obviously, what was been some of the responses? You know, like when people walk through. So I happened to get the privilege of being at your open house. It was pretty amazing, and I thought it was great the way you staged up. I know what people said, but what did they say to you? Like some of these developers and interior designers who maybe haven't been exposed to this before.
You know, a lot of wows. You know, because they haven't been exposed to it. You know, and obviously, I mean, we're not the only game in town. I mean, there are other integrators just like every other market. But I don't think a lot of designers, architects, builders really, I don't want to say take us seriously, but I don't think they go out of their way to visit companies like us, right? I mean, at least in our market, when we get involved in a project, it's usually not the builder bringing us in because we deal only with custom homes, right? We don't do production level building like with Pulte and some of the big guys throughout the country. So, you know, it just works, man. I mean, they really, you know, everyone got a kick out of it. People really enjoyed the space, and we made a lot of relationships out of it. A lot out of that showing alone, made a lot of new relationships with designers, a few architects that we're in touch with. There's a couple that have sent work our way. In fact, you know, I'm working on a commercial project right now, specifying lighting on a commercial project that came out of this event. You know, working with a designer that does primarily commercial type work. So yeah.
How do you work with trade partners in your new space?
So we, in a few different ways. So we kind of have a program. It's not set in stone. We're still finalizing it, but we've opened our showroom up to designers. They are welcome to book time here and come here with their clients, whether we're doing business or not. It doesn't matter. A lot of, you know, what we found is a lot of designers, at least in our market, do not have studios. You know, some work from home, some work in, you know, maybe a small office. You know, they're meeting people at Panera Bread or their homes. So we've opened up our showroom. We let them come in, bring their client in, use our conference room. You know, they can talk shading, they can talk lighting if they want. If they want to include us in the conversation, we're more than happy to join in. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But it definitely, it gets new eyes, in our showroom. People are looking at stuff. So there's obviously a benefit to us. And a benefit to them also, as far as the designers go. The other way is we as we've grown, we've been doing not only design work and specification on our own projects, but we also work with designers to where we'll help them with lighting design, and and actually we'll wholesale product out to them. So they can make margin on the lighting on their projects. The same thing with electricians. We work with a number of electricians that actually just buy product through us because they found that we're just faster, right, than dealing with your traditional electrical parts house. So we work with a number of electricians. And then, that's great because they end up, sometimes they'll bring us into a project, vice versa. So having that relationship is awesome. And then we also help, we've worked with a number of integrators, typically guys that aren't in buying groups that are just trying to get into lighting and really don't have access to, some of the, education, let's say, and some of the other companies out there right now in the industry that are helping out with lighting design. So we've worked with several integrators in the tri-state area, helping them. So yeah.
What kind of advice do you want to give the audience today about entering the lighting category?
Don't wait. Don't wait, right? So look, I was at CEDIA, you were at CEDIA, Patrick. I was honestly this year I was floored by how many lighting manufacturers there were, right? There's a ton compared to last year, the year before, so on. The industry's changing. It's funny, when I built my last space out, I had several manufacturers reps come through, to check on things, and we were building out. And I had several guys, I won't mention them now, they know who they are. They looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why are you investing all this money on lighting? You guys are an integration house, you do AV. And obviously things have changed. You look at Lightapalooza. I didn't go last year. I couldn't go. I went the year before, the second year. It's fantastic. I think that's if you're going to get into lighting, that's a must see show. I would pass on a number of other industry shows to, if I had a choice. If I could only make one, I'd be going Lightapalooza. But there's I'd say absolutely get into it. It's one of those things, like back in the day, 20 years ago, I remember when I was heavy into security, networking started to become a real thing, right? And there were a lot of, security guys that were doing some AV. They just absolutely refused to even talk about routers or Wi-Fi. They wanted nothing to do with it. And, a lot of those guys fizzled away. I'm not saying you're going to fizzle away if you don't get into lighting, but lighting is a game changer for our industry. I saw manufacturers at CEDIA that do nothing with lighting at all, and all of a sudden they have a lighting offering this year. It's just, that should tell you something, when you're walking around. And it's not just small manufacturers, the guys that have the smaller tables in the back. There was a massive presence. So I see lighting being a huge part of this industry moving forward for integrators. And if you're not doing it, ease into it or go hard, whatever you're comfortable doing. But I definitely get into it.
Yeah, you said two things, Tom, that I want to just touch on, reiterate for everybody, and we have some questions that we'll take from the audience, because really we want them to be able to hear what you have to say and appreciate your time. One was the AV guy. You said a lot of the developers and architects that came into your open house were really wowed and blown away, and I think that's part of the challenge for our industry is really we have to get over that hump of being the AV guy. or the AV, gal, just the AV person. There's so much more. And a showroom I know helps tremendously. It's harder to tell a story without being able to show it. I always say, having been a lighting guy all my life, I say, you can tell me how great something sounds, but if I don't have a point of reference, it's hard for me to know unless I hear it myself. And that's why you guys show all the speakers and allow people to do the demo. So lighting, I think, is a big part of that. And then also you had mentioned electricians and working with them. So the key point for everybody listening, Tom does not have a high voltage side. He doesn't do that. So he has to form relationships in the industry. And just real quick, Tom, before we take a couple questions, any thoughts or advice for people on how to communicate with the electrician, or how to, to say, hey, I'd like to provide the lighting and I'm going to help you too. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's less of a conversation of, hey, I want to provide the lighting, because usually electricians not involved in that at that stage, right? So I mean, what we're meeting with a client, we have prints, there's a reflective ceiling plan that the architect put together. We're ahead of the electrician 99% of the time, right? So by the time it gets to the point where we're selling client directly to the client, we're bringing it out to the job site, we're meeting with an electrician. In some ways, we're also project managing the electrician. We actually put in we charge for that as well. Because at the end of the day, we did the design. We want it to look good. We want to make sure everything's in, especially if you have square lights. You got to make sure. So it's usually a pretty straightforward conversation. Electricians, what I found, and again, I can only speak to my market. It's different everywhere. They don't care. They don't care. A lot of electricians don't. They're not making margin on product. They're making money on labor and on copper. So it really makes no difference to them, right? And sometimes they get to work with some cool stuff. It's actually a tougher conversation sometimes discussing, centralized lighting and, explaining to them that, hey, you're gonna have to wire this house differently than what you're used to, right? So it's usually pretty straightforward. We've never really had any kickback from any electrician that we've worked with, whether we had a relationship with them or not, entering a project. So yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually, there was, a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Are we going to talk about pitfalls before we get in the questions?
Yep, we have a couple questions in the queue, but go ahead. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, look, we view lighting like we view shades. You measure wrong, you own it. And lighting, in a lot of ways, is the same way, right? So you have to be sure. Different lights have different size housings. That's bit us in the rear end several times. Sometimes you'll get prints from that an architect did that are super detailed, and sometimes you get just really lousy prints. You'll get out to a job site and you'll have ceilings framed out, 24 on center, or you'll have it every 6 inches and all sorts of craziness. So you have to be willing and ready to adapt and shift immediately. You have to stay on top of lighting when you're speccing into a job, and in a lot of ways have that relationship with the electrician so he keeps you in the know. Because some of these, and Patrick, I've, we've made our share of mistakes, and when you're dealing with something like, there's a lot of made to order product also in the lighting industry, regardless of what manufacturer you work with. So when something doesn't work, it might not be a 2-day turnaround, like a lot of us in the AV world are used to. We have an issue, we red label something in. It just doesn't work that way in the lighting industry always. It can in certain instances, but you have to PM your work at a much higher level than you do in the AV world. Yeah. And then I'll also point out, I want to mention this in the previous question. Getting into the industry, there are a ton of resources out there. The manufacturers are a great resource. A lot of the manufacturers in our channel, you know, they have design teams that you can lean on. We did that a lot early on. I literally did that on a big project that we did, you know, we specified several months back, where I leaned on a manufacturer to help us out. You know, so utilize those guys. You know, there's you know, join the ALA. You know, there's a ton of resources there. You know, you can learn a lot, you know, through that organization as well. And then, you know, obviously doing design work is not for everybody immediately. I mean, that's something you kind of grow into. But, you know, there are resources out there also that are, you know, most people that are looking at lighting know what those resources are, you know, so, you know, reach out to those people, or, you know, or whoever. I mean, people out there to help.
Awesome. Hey, Rachel, let me ask this last question, and then I'll let you take the other questions for Tom. Tom, just real quick, do you cut the electrician in on the profit of the fixtures?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I haven't yet. That's not to say I won't. You know, given the situation, I don't. But there's only enough money to go around. You know, and usually if we have a designer involved, there's usually some level of money that goes back to the designer, because as anyone knows, you know, working in luxury, you know, residential, there's almost always a designer, and sometimes they're the decision maker in a lot of ways, you know, so we try to keep them happy.
Awesome. Thanks. Go ahead, Rachel, if you want to read the other two questions still.
Sure. In cases of remodel projects, how would you approach client concerns about integrating newer technology into existing control systems, thereby requiring the use of several different apps for full adjustability?
I'm sorry, you broke up. I missed. Could you do that again?
Sure. In the cases of a remodel project, how would you approach client concerns about integrating new technology into existing control systems? So then you have a bunch of apps to deal with. How would you deal with that?
If it already has a control system, I mean, I don't think, you know, unless you're going, you know, with tunable or something like that. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, it's, you know, you're replacing a 6-inch. I mean, if they're tearing the ceiling down, whether they're rewiring or not, and it's typically a different aperture or maybe dim to warm product. I don't think you'll really run into that. You know, obviously depending on the control system, but you know, majority of the product out there. I mean, you know, speaking for Control 4, you know, everything's typically adaptive phase, and it just works. I mean, it's not a big deal that we've run into.
Okay. Do you primarily market to custom home builders or direct to homeowners? What has been your most successful method for marketing to those clients?
So we suck at marketing. I'll be the first one to say that. So it's something that we're actually really starting to work hard on right now. So we really don't market to builders. We know who all the players are in our market. They know who we are. Sometimes they'll refer a client to us. Sometimes they don't. And we really, you know, we haven't done a great job of marketing to new clientele over the years. And part of the reason being is we've been crushed with business for the last 12 years. You know, and we tend to work in a lot of circles, and we get referred a lot. You know, to family, friends, and that sort of thing. So, you know, for several years, there really wasn't a need to market in the traditional sense, whether it was print or social or anything else. That's changing now. You know, we're entering as a company another growth phase, so we have to market, and that's something we're hyper focused on right now.
What kind of margins do the designers expect to get? And do you have any tips for working with interior designers? Do you give them margin on all the lighting portion of the project, or just decorative fixtures?
So it's less of what every designer is different, is what it comes down to. I mean, some designers have an expectation. Some designers would just like a piece. You know, everything's up for negotiation on every job. It really depends on, you know, if you're a designer that we work with steadily, and if you're bringing business in through our door, I'm going to be more open to share a bigger piece of the pie. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, let's do business. Let's do more business. If we're doing a ton of business, I want everyone to make money. I want to make money. Everyone has to be happy, and we're all in together. So it just varies. It varies based on the situation and the relationship.
Yeah, I think, Tom, typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, typically on the recessed, whether it's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch apertures, like specialty recessed tape, I don't know. It hasn't been my experience, or I haven't heard from a lot of integrators that they expect to be cut in on those margins. But if you were doing the decorative, maybe instead of them, I would think that they tend to make their money on obviously the design work, matching finishes and hardware and everything they do, their time, and then of course decorative fixtures is typically in their wheelhouse. Would you agree, or is that a little different?
It is, but I'm working with a designer right now, and she needed several decorative pieces, and we helped her out because designers aren't going direct to the manufacturer. That's number one, right? They're going to Ferguson, they're going to Build.com. Right, and a couple other areas, right? And we have access to a lot of the same product. We typically on decorative, I would say about 15 points is what we're passing along. And it also depends on quantity, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors, and the margin of the product. And the other thing with decorative, which can make it difficult at times, is that you do have I won't use any other names, but other online retailers, right, that are in the lighting business, and they blow lighting out, so it's tough to compete sometimes. So we give what we can when we can, depending on quantity and scope.
Awesome. Well, Tom, that's all the questions we have, and actually it's all the time we have, is there anything else you want to add before I sign us off?
No, get in the lighting. See you guys at Lightapalooza.
Yeah. So Tom, for everybody that's on the call, Tom's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Simply Automated. He's a great guy. Look him up at Lightapalooza. Connect with him. You can reach out to him. He's a fantastic guy. Tom, thank you for spending your time with us, for sharing what you did. Tom's outfit has won numerous awards, home awards, and both local and national for some of the integration work he's done, as well as being spectacular dealers for many of the manufacturers in the integration industry. So again, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time with us. Everybody, thanks for attending. We'll see you at the next Integrator Insights webinar we have in November. Thank you, everybody. And Tom, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.